I've been hearing for more than 15 years that China's economy is failing and the country's collapsing, and it's only a matter of time before the whole country shuts down. Many of the prediction timelines have come and gone. Some of them are still at various points in the future. But after moving to China in 2019 and then moving back to the United States in 2023, it's clear to me that we in the West have a warped perspective of what's going on in China. It's hard to tell what's really going on behind the scenes, but in terms of what I saw, what I experienced, and what I heard from other Chinese people, it's clear that American media is way overconfident in their assumptions. Today I'm talking to Iain Davidson. He's an academic manager and teacher from Scotland, and has been teaching in Shenzhen, China since 2019, the same year that I got there. In our conversation, we discussed China's economy, the role of propaganda, bike share, public transportation, voting, algorithms, e-commerce, the TikTok ban, Western and Chinese social media, and a lot of other smaller anecdotes. This conversation is not intended to find an answer to the question of what's going on with China's economy, but rather to discuss our lived experience, what those around us think, and compare that experience to what's going on in the United States and other Western countries today. All right, so the first question is, what do you think about China's current economic situation?
So I'm coming from a perspective that is definitely altered because I'm living in a tier 1 city.
Yeah.
And like from my perspective, China looks to be really rich and prosperous. I listened to a podcast called The Rest is Politics, and it's a British podcast where it's an ex-member of parliament, and then from one of the parties, the more conservative party, and then there's a ex-director of communications from the more liberal party, and they sometimes talk about China, and they say, oh, China's really struggling, and the other media from the UK paints a picture that China is heading towards some kind of crisis, be that a population crisis, be that an economic crisis. But in Shenzhen, at least, like it's like living in the future, where consumerism and capitalism is really, really healthy. The subway system, for example, when I first got to Shenzhen 6 years ago, it was already a huge network. But they are adding new lines and new stations all the time. And then the metro system itself is incredibly cheap. It costs $1 to go from one end of the city to the other. And it's clean, and it's big, and it's bright, and it's air conditioned. And it's well used. And it's amazing. And a place that was really struggling financially would not be spending billions and billions of dollars on their subway network.
Right?
So I don't believe the picture that the West is painting, that there is some huge looming crisis. And the evidence for that is the amount of construction that is happening in Shenzhen. Like, there's just so much, and it's like new skyscrapers going up all the time, new roads being built all the time. But how much of that is a facade, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. So I asked this question because, let's see, while I was there, I read this book by a guy named Peter Zeihan called "The End of the World is Just the Beginning," and he's trying to make this point that like we've had this super long period of like post World War II order that's only been possible because of like the incredible wealth of the United States, and like it's not sustainable anymore, and the huge network that we've built up is like super fragile, and like everything's going to collapse as demographic collapse is like begins. And he talks a lot about China's collapsing birth rate and how like the imbalance because of the one child policy like totally screwed things up, and like there's way more old people than there are young people. But then at the same time, like all of these predictions that he tries to make about China, like he's been writing about China for decades at this point. And he keeps pushing his timeline back and is always like, in the next decade, China is going to collapse. Like the housing bubble, like all of these, like China's economic situation is terrible. Like nobody can find jobs. And it just does not seem to match what I see. But then at the same time, like you said, most of my time is spent in tier 1 cities, and I have no idea. Like, I've heard there are people who like, if you don't have the hukou, the like family registration thing to be able to like send your kids to school in a tier 1 city, like they can't afford it, and so they can only get work and like send their kids to school in their hometown, and their hometown doesn't have any work except for like old factory jobs that are barely relevant anymore because all of the factories have moved to like Dongguan and stuff. And so like I could see the case actually being that like the experience that we've had of China is warped. But then at the same time, like Sophie comes from, I think it would be considered a tier 3 city, maybe even tier 4. And like capitalism there is thriving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like even the people who you would consider poor are like doing very well and have like plenty of like their lifestyle is nice, and like they can buy stuff on Taobao. And then
so just for clarification, Dongguan is a satellite city to Shenzhen, and in China they have ranked their cities in terms of how economically powerful they are. Is that right?
I don't even know where the label comes from. I don't know if they label it themselves or is like... Should I look that up?
Probably something we should know. But tier 1 cities, there's Beijing and Shanghai. There's Shenzhen, and then there's Guangzhou.
Right.
That's all of them, right? The 4 tier 1 cities. Shenzhen and Guangzhou are on the Pearl River Delta.
Actually, I think there's way more than 4, aren't there?
Tier 1 city? I don't think so.
Beijing, Shanghai,
you can do a quick
Shenzhen,
Google,
Guangzhou.
But Beijing, Shanghai, and then the 2 in the south. And then Dongguan, the city that you mentioned, is a satellite city to Guangzhou. It's sort of in between Guangzhou and Shenzhen.
Yeah, I think it's closer to Shenzhen, but yeah.
And it's basically suburbia will just crawl out into the countryside. It's a big megalopolis. There's tens and tens of millions of people living within the Shenzhen, Guangzhou region. And there's lots of sort of satellite cities that sort of service the 2 tier 1 cities here. And huge manufacturing and technology hub.
It says the Chinese government does not formally use the tier system.
Everyone uses it, though.
It says it organizes cities by administrative levels, like provincial, like Beijing. And then, Beijing and Shanghai are always tier 1 because of their political and economic centers.
Yeah. But well, when it comes to, like, I went back to the UK recently, and I was walking around Edinburgh, and like Edinburgh's an old city. I understand that, and it's a small city. Like, I understand that too. But there's such a huge difference between the sort of the 5th biggest city in the UK, Edinburgh, or maybe it's in the top 10. I'm not sure. And then the 3rd biggest city in China. Like, it's orders of magnitude different.
Yeah.
In terms of like what is available for the average person.
Yeah.
And you've got to go like way down the list in China in terms of size of city to get anything approaching as like how Edinburgh feels so broken. In the UK, and I'm sure I've seen in America too, there's huge problems with homeless people, with
Oh
trash
yeah.
on the street,
And
with
it's
graffiti.
getting worse constantly. It's
Yeah.
really bad.
And like whole sections of town just like being abandoned.
Yeah.
As shops close down, as the high street closes, in favor of out of town shopping and online shopping. But that's not something that I see in China. Um, I'm not saying that things don't close down, but as soon as one closes,
Yeah, something else
something has
just
opened up in
grabs
its
its place.
place. Um, and it feels like there's more of an entrepreneurial spirit. People are more willing to take risks here.
Okay, that's another thing that I've been wondering a lot about. That definitely feels like I always made the joke the American dream died and moved to China because like if people are like they feel like it's super risky to start a business here and like getting everything approved and started up. There's a coffee shop that has said coming soon in a shopping center nearby that's been saying that for over a year, and I made a video about it because it was just like the place next to my living community when I was in Shenzhen closed and turned into a new business 3 times in the amount of time that this place has taken to open, and it's still not open. I made that video like a month ago. Like, what is that?
I don't know. Maybe like I would hesitate to say it's bureaucracy because no one loves a red stamp like a Chinese bureaucrat.
It's different though.
But it is different, and I'm not trying to open a business here. I'm not trying to open a business in America either. So I wouldn't be able to tell you what the difference is. But what I do know is that there's a huge and very fast turnover here in Shenzhen. Shops close all the time. You can't get used to having a favorite anything because if you wait long enough, it'll be replaced by something totally different.
And where are they getting the money to do it?
Also, I don't know. But I think maybe that there might be an attitude higher up in the government in China to like that the economy needs to keep turning. How do we keep the economy turning? Is like people buy and sell things, and then how do we make that? How do we make people do that? How do we get people to do that? And there's lots and lots and lots of small businesses here. Lots and lots and lots of like family run franchises of things.
I also know that the Shenzhen government like really supports that. Like even Sophie got I don't know how much, but quite a lot of money from the Shenzhen government for for having graduated from a university and then like the higher your education level, she had a master's degree, and so they paid her more, and then she opened a business, and so they paid her more. So Shenzhen might like it is like a special economic zone, so it might be like not the perfect example for the whole country. But then even at the same time, the CEO of the company that I work for has been trying to get investment, and he keeps saying like the economic situation in China is not good right now because nobody has any money, and so nobody wants to spend the money on investing in other people's businesses. And he said he notices it a lot in hiring people because everyone's looking for a job and nobody can find one. And so he can pay way less for much higher quality talent than he could when he started the business originally. And he was like, people who like studied abroad and speak English well used to be able to command a lot higher of a price. And now even those people can't find work. And so he can pay way less and get those people. So like, that actually was my second question. What do you hear from other Chinese people about this topic?
I do hear that it's difficult for graduates to get a job. I have a friend who is an engineer, and she was she worked for like a media company installing TV technology, and she did on-site installations for satellite communication, something like that.
Fun.
And she was able to get a job in China, no problem. Like, were the working conditions good? No, they were not good. She was working a lot of overtime. The cliche of 996, which is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, was something of a reality for her a lot of the time. A lot of pressure from sort of the management level above her to meet her KPIs and what have you. And then her salary was not good, and she wasn't able to move out, and she had to live with her parents. But she had a job. And then she married an immigrant from the UK, and they moved to London, and she's been in London for 6 to 8 months, maybe. I can't remember exactly when they left, but she's been applying for jobs like it's her job to apply for jobs, and she's had a few interviews and 0 hires. Like, she cannot find a job.
Interesting.
So
does she have
like,
a permanent residence, or?
She has I think she has permanent leave to remain in the UK.
Is it possible that that's the reason that she can't find a job?
No, she's on a visa that allows her to find a job.
Okay.
But I think that this rhetoric of, oh, in China there's fewer jobs and people are hiring with like people are not hiring and there's lots of people looking for jobs. Yeah, I think this is true, but I don't think it's unique to China.
Right.
I think that this is worldwide.
Definitely. In fact, when I was applying for jobs...
Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, when I was applying for jobs, I applied to a whole bunch, and I heard back from one. And that one, I didn't even get through the interview process, and they were like, oh, wait, we actually already hired someone. Never mind.
Yeah, it's really frustrating for people of our generation.
Yeah.
But like in the West, it is compounded by a whole number of crises that are happening in tandem.
Yeah.
So in the UK, there's a healthcare crisis. There's a housing shortage. We're always seem to be, ever since 2008, it seems like we're always on the cusp of a recession. There's another financial crisis. There's an energy crisis. In Europe, they feel the impacts of the conflict in Ukraine, the Russian war of aggression. They're feeling that really, really, really strongly.
Yeah.
And so all of these are really compounding. And I feel like in China, okay, there's no energy crisis. Housing is expensive, but that's only in tier 1 cities. And there's not really a shortage of housing in China.
There's a surplus of housing, actually.
Yeah, and okay, so that is another problem separate. But like, there's not a housing crisis, there's not an energy crisis. There doesn't seem to be so much of an economic slowdown. Yes, it's difficult to find jobs, but my friend who I was talking about, who moved to London, she was laid off from her previous job, and she was able to find another job within a month. And she asked if she could do that job remotely whilst working in the UK, and they were like, oh, actually, that wasn't possible for her. But she was able to find a job relatively quickly in China, but for lower pay and worse conditions, yes. But I think there is a difficulty in finding work worldwide, but I think in the West it is compounded by other factors. Where I think in China it is just an employment crisis as a standalone issue.
Do you think, because like I've been hearing that there are places like McDonald's that like can't find employees because no one's willing to take the job. Do you think there's a difference in like work mentality where people in China are just like, I mean, I'll take anything I can find. This job is awful, but I'll do it anyway. And so there's like always a job if you're willing to do it, but not a good job.
Yeah, I do. And I think some of that is ingrained in their culture, in that to get married to someone, the expectation is you have a job, you have a house, and you have a car.
Yep.
If you're a man, you need these three things in order to find a wife. And because of the one-child policy, there are, or maybe as a result of many different factors, one of them being the one-child policy, there are more men than there are women, and so there is more competition. And so men will take a shitty job if it means they can afford to buy a house somewhere in a tier 3 or a tier 4 city that they don't even live in and they don't even rent out. They just have it.
Yeah.
As a air quote investment. They have enough salary to pay the mortgage on that, and they have enough to buy a cheap electric car, and then they have a job, and then they're eligible to get married. Like,
yeah, it actually even does seem kind of possible. Like, I remember seeing the salary for like a standard Luckin Coffee employee. I think like the base salary was between $3,000 and $5,000 a month. Like, it's not a lot, but you can survive on that in Shenzhen. If you live in a crappy place, like, you can get food easy for that. And you don't have any other expenses.
Oh, because you're working the whole time.
Well, that too.
Like, the standard of the housing stock in China is way worse than you'd find in the UK and America.
Yeah.
And it is very common to live in a dormitory as a full-time grown-up adult. If you're single, it is, especially a working man with no wife, or even with a wife and children in another city, for the men to come to the city to find terrible work, terrible conditions, low pay, but enough to send back to your wife, and then enough to spend like less than $100 a month on accommodation.
Yeah.
But you're sharing a room with 5 other men.
Yeah, a lot of jobs will actually provide you with that dorm.
Yep.
When I was in Shanghai,
you're living like a college student.
Yeah. In fact, that's literally what I was going to say. When I was living in Shanghai, there was a guy who worked at the cafeteria in the Muslim cafeteria making noodles. And I thought he was like a 52-year-old guy. I made friends with him, talked to him about how he works 7 days a week. He wakes up in the morning early, goes to prepare noodles, makes noodles until the cafeteria closes, cleans up. Cafeteria closes after dinner, and so then he has to clean up after that, and then he goes back to his dorm that's paid for. And he made, I think it was exactly $5,000 a month. And then I found out that he was younger than me. So he was like 26 or something, or like 22. I was 23 at the time. So yeah, I think he was like 21. And I was like, oh, I feel bad for this guy. I thought he was 50 the whole time.
God, life has not been kind to him. But
yeah,
there is the cost of living out here. It can be a lot cheaper. A lot cheaper. And a lot of the time, eating out is cheaper than making your own food at home.
That's such a weird one.
Like, you can go to a cafeteria style place and get meat and rice and vegetables, a big portion, for about $50.
Yeah. And then you probably could get like a meal card, and they'll be like, oh, just like put 500 RMB on it, and then it's even cheaper. We'll give you a 500 to match it.
Yep. And when I was back in the UK recently, I took my mum out for. We went to a place called Wagamama's. I don't know if you've got this in America, but it's like an Asian fusion chain restaurant, um, where you can get like Vietnamese, Thai, Chinese, Japanese. It's a Japanese style soba restaurant, I guess, but they've got loads and loads of dishes. And I got a bowl of pork ramen, and my mum got a Thai salad, and we split it between us. And it cost me £50 for 2 meals.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that
then
sounds
later
right.
on that week, I took my little brother to Nando's. You've heard of Nando's, right?
Nope.
It's just chicken. Oh, it's another chain restaurant. It's sort of like draws. It's like on the it's on the cusp between like fast food and like a proper sit down meal.
Okay, yeah, I gotcha. So it's
But
Shake
it's just
Shack.
chicken. It's grilled chicken, and that was £40 for 2 meals.
Jeez. Like,
And like,
have you even ever spent £40 on a meal ever in China?
so I went out for a Korean barbecue just before I went back to the UK, and there was three couples, so it was 6 people, and we ordered off the set menu. We got the share style because of Korean barbecue, and this is like an up. It's in one of those fancy perfumed malls.
Yeah.
Actually, the place that it's in is Coco Park, which is like right in the central business district of Shenzhen, right below the huge Ping An
Oh,
Tower.
yeah,
which
yeah.
is
That's
the
actually one of the tallest
third
buildings in the world.
Tallest buildings in the world, yeah.
And doesn't look like it because all the ones around it are also tall.
Yeah. So it's like right in the glistening jewel at the heart of Shenzhen, this restaurant. And we ordered so much food. We finished it all, but like everyone was pretty stuffed at the end. And the bill came, and then I turned to my partner and was like, oh my God, this is so expensive. It's going to be 110 RMB per person.
So like $15.
Yeah, not even.
And then no tip.
Oh, no tip. And that was meat, because of Korean barbecue, so all you're eating is meat. Like there's a couple of mushrooms maybe, but it's like mostly meat. And then everyone had one or two drinks. I had 2 beers. They were drinking soba. No, what soju? Soju, sorry.
Soju, yeah.
They're drinking soju, and like it came to 110 per person. I was like, oh my God, this is expensive.
That's, yeah. The difference in cost of just normal things, like okay, so I went to Portland, Oregon, and I was like, oh, this is going to be one of those cities where like I know that people bike around a lot, so they're definitely going to have a bike share system, and they did. And I went to take it, and they had no option for just like take a bike once. You had to subscribe, and the subscription was like, I don't want to butcher it. I can't remember exactly, but it was something like $25 for like a really. It was a shorter period of time than I was going to be there, and it was like 4 days or something, and it was so far beyond anything I would even consider being willing to pay for. Just like out of principle, it was like that's such an absolute ripoff. And the bike share system in China, it's like what, 1 RMB per ride, like 12 cents.
Yes.
Some of these things, I wonder how they can even survive.
So there's a few different companies in Shenzhen that offer this service, and the quality of bikes is much of a muchness. But there's the one that's owned by Alipay. I think it's called Hello Bike.
Good name.
Yeah, I think it's Hello Distanke. And their seat goes like 2 centimeters higher than the competitor.
Oh, game changer.
Like that extra 2 centimeters is quite valuable when they're basically identical. And I sometimes bike home from work because it takes the same amount of time as taking the metro. And that cost me 5 RMB for like an hour's biking, like 18 kilometers.
That sounds about right. Wait, 5?
Yeah. Yeah, it's 5.
Jeez, they really raised the price. That's almost $1.
Yeah, so that is air quotes expensive. But I think the competitor, the Meituan bikes, they are much more ubiquitous. Like everywhere you look is the yellow Meituan bike. Where you've got to actually look for the Halo bike from Alipay. And I pay the subscription, but I can't remember how much the subscription is I'm paying. I think I'm paying 10 RMB a month for it.
That sounds right. I think that's what I was paying right before I left.
And that's unlimited bike rides.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Biketown operates with a few pricing tiers, but it says for a casual user, single ride option is $1 to unlock the bike and then 30 cents per minute. So a quick 10-minute ride is $4. If you're riding for longer, say 30 minutes, it would be $10. And we were like, well, we definitely need to ride for 30 minutes, so it's $10 per person. So to get to this place that we were going, it would be $20. I could take an Uber, and it would be cheaper than that.
What?
So it was like, there's no point then. Why am I even going to use it?
Right. Yeah. But I think in Shenzhen, for sure, like the official estimate of the population of Shenzhen is something like 12 million.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of undocumented people in Shenzhen who are living here seasonally or haven't registered with the government yet, or whatever their situation might be. And like the actual number of people that are living in the city is closer to 20 million than it is 12. And so these companies have got like scale on their side.
How do they do that though? Because you have to, in order to register, you have to put in your ID.
I don't know. There's ways around it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it's China.
Yeah, it's China.
You probably buy an account on Taobao.
Get someone else to scan it for you. That's off the top of my head one thing they could do. But like, yeah, China has the advantage of like they can mass produce the bicycles very cheaply, and then
the manufacturing.
The bicycles are used a lot, like a lot, and so like both of these factors allow it to be more profitable, or cheaper for the consumer. And I think it doesn't really work in the UK outside of London. I know London's got a similar scheme to this. But there's a lot more biking infrastructure, even though it's not very good in Shenzhen. And bike paths suddenly end. But like
compared to Los Angeles, though?
Yeah.
Share the road.
Edinburgh. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next question, please.
But before the next question, I was going to say the CEO of the company I work for, he has a friend that graduated from the same university he did and also started a company. And then that company went out of business. And so he had to get a job. And companies, like especially tech companies or like companies that hire highly educated people, they want the person who's just graduated from school because they're like less likely to have a family and have like other obligations, and then also are willing to do the 996 thing. And so he said after that person's company went out of business, he couldn't find a job because he was too old at 35. And so because of that, his friend now does delivery for a living. And B, the CEO of my company said he can hire people who are like 50 and basically pay them nothing. And it's like, those are the people who have all the experience and have like, I would think you'd want those people, but everyone thinks of it as like, oh, but you can't work late hours and work 6 days a week and never take a break. So you're still worse. But the interesting thing to me is that, like, I hear that kind of thing from people like him who are like they've started a business and like have experience working in China, and those people are the ones who are like, oh yeah, China's economic situation is really bad right now. But even they, if you like press them on the issue and you're like, well, these people say like China's going to collapse, like, what do you think about that? They're like, oh, I don't know. It feels like in China the narrative is, no, we're doing fine, everything's great, don't talk about it. And the narrative in the United States is China's collapsing like tomorrow. But neither of those things seem to be true.
Mm.
What is the truth?
Yeah.
Does anyone even know?
I don't know if anyone knows, to be honest with you.
Like, I wonder what the leadership thinks. Like, are they worried? Do they think, like, do they know more than we do? Or is it like there are so many variables in the system that even they are like, hope it works out?
Like, that is hard to predict. But, like, if you want to know the health of economy, like, there are different aspects you can look at. Like, the amount of investment that the place is receiving is one way of looking at it. The ease to find jobs, the housing market, all of these things. Like, the infrastructure investment, like... And all of these, from my perspective, look good for China.
Right? That's been my experience too.
And so I think there's a narrative in the West that they're trying to push. And this is what I was talking to one of my colleagues about. And I got to be very careful when I'm talking to my colleagues, because I don't want to... I don't want to insult them. I don't want to cross a cultural boundary. But China is very open and, like, there's not... What's the word I'm looking for? There's no stigma when it comes to propaganda. Like, they know they're being propagandized. Yeah. And they see it as a part of living here is you're going to face up to the propaganda. That is something that you'll face. Whereas in the West, like, propaganda is almost a dirty word, and like, oh, China is a culprit of propaganda. Russia, the bad guys, they're all... North Korea, these are all governments that propagandize their citizens. But us in the West, no, we have no such affiliations with such a horrible communist way of governing our people. Also, China is doing really badly and we're doing really well. And so I think that there is a level of propaganda. If you look at any article written about China, be on the BBC, be it a positive article about China, something neutral, they will always bring it back to human rights.
Yeah.
And China's, air quotes, poor record of human rights. If they're talking about what was that real estate company called in China? Is it
Evergrande?
Yeah. There was also, at the time when that went under, or when that was getting its bailout from the government, there were lots of articles in the BBC about it. And then about a third of the way through the article, the journalist would switch tacks and be like, oh no, look at what's happening in Xinjiang, look at what happened in terms of Taiwan province. There's like there's a smoke and mirrors game happening here, I think, in Western media, where they're saying, "Oh no, China's bad," without actually dealing with any of the core issues.
Yeah. That was actually literally one of my questions. I just circled it. Like, what is the deal with. It feels to me like people in China are so aware of, like, what is propaganda that they're almost like. Some people will just kind of go along with it and they're like, this is what they tell me and I don't really care, so sure, that's the case. And then there are obviously those people who are like, they have government jobs and they like very much toe the line. But then, like, pretty much anyone that has any kind of entrepreneurial spirit or like open mindedness is like, yeah, I know all that's garbage, but like, I don't really know what the actual situation is, but here's my opinion. And they're like very open to talk about it. And like, I agree with this that my country does, but I don't agree with that. Whereas here, I feel like people are so adamant about like, we have freedom of speech and we have like independent media that's not controlled by the government. And therefore, we know what's actually going on. But then
Right.
everything is negative, and they refuse to say anything positive about China, and like anything that should be positive, they have like a negative spin on it that try to make it sound like the evil communists. Why?
So I actually disagree with you slightly.
Yeah.
In that people in China like disregard or believe that all propaganda is garbage. Um, just because you know you're being propagandized doesn't mean that what is being said doesn't have some value to individual people or to society as a whole.
Right. It also it depends
And
on the
a good
person.
example of this is a cultural phenomenon. I think I'd describe it as that I'd never heard of before I came to China, and it's this piece of propaganda called that immortalizes a Chinese soldier from the Revolutionary War, and the diaries that he, inverted commas, quote, wrote. A lot of people from the West, if you look him up on Wikipedia, for example, the soldier's name was Lei Feng, and he's celebrated in China for writing these diaries where he celebrated the People's Liberation Army and the ideas that Truman Mao had, and how you've got to like work hard and keep your head down and all these things that the Communist Party would have you as a civil member of society want to embody these characteristics. The view in the West is that it is a total work of propaganda fiction. And I was asking my colleague if she believed that Lei Feng was a real person, and she was like, it's kind of beside the point. Like the story that we tell the children is how to be a good citizen. And whether he's real or not is like not really important. The important thing is like working together to make society better for everyone. And so the Chinese people here know that this might be some kind of propaganda. Whether he was a real person or not is totally beside the point. But they want to work together, and I truly believe this, that Chinese culture wants people to work together to try and make a better society. Whereas I feel like in the West, there is no uniting figure that you can look to say, I want to make society better. I want to embody these characteristics. I want to help my neighbor. I think the closest we come to this is Santa Claus.
Well, that sounds like you're describing Jesus.
Jesus comes. I think Jesus would also fit into this. Is a historical person? Yes. Represents a set of values? Yes. Does he do all the things that the people who are in a position of power, be that the Catholic Church, be that the other Christian denominations, be that the Chinese Communist Party, whatever powerful organization, does this historical figure actually map to everything we're saying about him? No, not exactly. But like, this is a piece of, quote, propaganda. But I don't think the West really has anything uniting to sort of like have an obedient civil society. And maybe the West doesn't want to have an obedient civil society. But there is that piece of propaganda that fits towards that.
Yeah. I would say most people in the West are under the impression that we don't really have propaganda. Like occasionally they might have like propaganda for joining the military or something. So like one of the reasons I had this question in the first place, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts recently where they talk about the Russia-Ukraine situation. And the question of like, can we go back to like partnering with Russia on things like we had the International Space Station together, and like Obama was supposed to be like, no, Russia's, he had supposedly said like Russia's not supposed to be our enemy, like we shouldn't be antagonizing them, we should be partnering with them and like not fighting all the time. But nobody says that about China. Like, why is it that China is such a like definitive adversary of specifically the United States, but it seems like most of the West? Whereas like,
I think if we were to look back to the height of the Cold War, it seemed like Russia was able to stand toe to toe with America in terms of the power of their economy and the power of their military. And there was real enmity between the USSR at the time and America, because there was the real rivalry. If you look at Russia today, their military has been 3 years into the conflict in Ukraine, and if they're to continue to make progress at the rate that they are going, I heard that it would take them 80 years to conquer Ukraine. So their military is up to, like, their conventional military is a laughingstock. Like, they're borrowing soldiers from North Korea because they can't get the manpower that they need. Their economy is the size of a middle-income country now. Like, Russia is no longer the great adversary that it once was. China has a population that could support a huge conventional military. China has the largest economy in the world. China is the number one holder of US debt. China has got the greatest trade surplus of any country in the world. Like, I think this is where it comes from. It comes from, like, a real, actual threat. Like, if China was to be hostile rather than neutral, like, they would be a huge threat to the current world order.
So then why antagonize them?
And that is a good question.
That is a really good question. I feel like if the United States government were to be like, hey, James, do you want to be like the head diplomat of the United States, like the head ambassador, whatever position it is that like deals with China, I'd be like, hey, how about instead of being so adversarial, like, we got a lot of things in common and we could like partner up on a lot of things, and like it would be so easy. I don't understand why there is such a strong like permanent adversarial position that like nobody suggests, hey, let's be friends.
Yeah, I think it's maybe part of the American psyche.
Propaganda?
That they want to have that they want to have a rival. Whereas I don't feel like that is
they make the rival North Korea or something.
Mindset that China has.
And then like the other thing that kind of plays into it, I see on X, there are Chinese like diplomats who just post a bunch of stuff that like you would obviously expect is going to get a bunch of hate in response. And you have a bunch of like Wu Mao people, the ones who like they're like, they post things like a video of like the skyline in China, and they're like, China is the future. Like, we have the greatest economy in the world. It's not collapsing.
Right.
And it's like, that's a video of skyscrapers. Like, Russia has that.
Yeah.
And their economy's collapsing. Like, that doesn't mean anything. And there's this like constant feud that I don't understand. The people on both sides are terrible at it. It's like Americans have to ignore so much in order to have such a hatred of China, and the ones in China who try to hate back at the U.S. do it in such a like, well, obviously that's just going to make everyone who already hates China hate them more, because you're basically doing exactly the things that they claim you're going to do. But like, throw both of those things out.
There was quite a funny moment that I found. It was actually kind of sweet, which was when TikTok was banned in America for 24 hours. It seemed that a lot of people, a lot of young people, sort of like millennial and younger, moved from TikTok to, what's it called? Red Note.
It's 小红书, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a few people, because I get all my short form video 2 weeks later from Instagram. I don't use TikTok or anything like that. I'm much too old for that. So I get it all recycled about a month after it actually goes down. But there's this Chinese influencer on Instagram, and she was commenting, summarizing, translating a lot of the interactions between the mainland Chinese users of Xiaohongshu, like welcoming the Americans onto the platform. And there's some like real glimpses of humanity in these interactions.
Yeah.
Where I think the populations realize, oh, we are like just people doom scrolling together. Let's like make something of this. I thought that was really sweet. And I think on a higher level, when you're looking at like governments and countries, you do get this enmity and rivalry. But then when they go down to the individual level, there's a lot of good things happening between these people, and there's not much of a difference.
Definitely ended super quickly, though.
Yeah, it did. And like, I'm sure, is it Tencent that owns Xiaohongshu? They'll have ring-fenced the app.
I think they're their own company, but yeah.
But if I can just move the conversation backwards a little bit, you're talking about, or we were talking about sort of the role of propaganda in Chinese society. And I think that Chinese citizens are much more self-aware, and I've actually got a really good example of this. So in China, there are a lot of services that are either like directly state-owned, or they are a corporation that is in tandem step with the government. So an example of this is the two, there are only two mobile phone network providers. There's China Telecom and China Unicom.
Wait, I think there's three. There's Dianxin Yidong and Liantong, but I don't remember what the third one's English name is.
Oh, the third one is much smaller, isn't it?
I actually have no idea. I think Dianxin is the biggest one. That's Telecom. And then Unicom is Liantong. And then, it's China Mobile. Yidong.
Okay. Okay, so three mobile telephone companies that provide the 5G network, 4G network, and everybody knows that these are state-owned corporations.
Right.
And then when it comes to rail travel, there's only one company that you can choose from, and it's state-owned. And then when it comes to airplanes, there's a few different carriers, but again, they're either state-owned or they're in tandem step with the government.
I was about to say all of those are great, but the airlines kind of suck.
And then when it comes to other examples, like banks, for example, yeah, they're state-owned or in step with the government or controlled by the central bank. And you can look at the long list of public services. The electricity companies are state-owned, the oil and gas companies are state-owned. Yeah, great. But it's common knowledge and everyone agrees and accepts that this is the way. If you go to any supermarket in America and you're presented with a wall of, I'm going to put these in quote marks, choices, everything in the supermarket is owned by either Nestle or Unilever.
Yeah, that's a good point. All the supermarkets,
product,
not even just the product, the actual stores,
different brands, but they all have or PepsiCo. They got the same. They've got the same parent company, and there's only really 2 or 3 choices.
Yeah, and in the store themselves, with they've merged into there's Amazon and Kroger. I think that's it in the US.
Yeah, and how many banks are there to choose from in America? Well, there's for the regular checking customer, there's sort of 2 or 3 main ones on the West Coast and 2 or 3 main ones on the East Coast, and they have 80% of the market. And then when it comes to international flights, well, you've got how many companies? You've got 2 companies, and they own 80% of the market in America. And then when it comes to the supermarkets themselves, you've got Walmart, and you've got Trader Joe's, and you've got CVS, and that's 80% of the market.
Yeah.
And America's... the West, but the West in general, and America specifically, is, you've got all this freedom of choice. The choice between what? There's only 2 options.
Yeah, and people don't recognize it, and they don't question it.
Right. And then when it comes to, even when you go to the voting booth and you go to the ballot, you've got 2 choices.
And they're basically
the same choice. Right-wing party, and I mean right-wing as in fiscally conservative, free market, post-neoliberal agenda. Or you can have this other right-wing party. Oh, great, cool. So the 2 choices are the same. Oh, right, cool. So yes, people in China don't have a vote. But I wonder, do people in America have a vote?
Yeah, I think about that all the time, especially because on top of that, I the last several elections, I've been well, this choice sucks. I just gotta pick. There's a correct answer basically, and then I remember when I was in Shanghai at Fudan University. It was when I met Sophie. She had one day this they called her into a classroom to do this vote, and I was like, wait, voting on what? And she was like, oh, it's just you're voting for it's the school's Communist Party representative or something like that. And I was like, I didn't realize you guys voted. And she's like, oh, it's just nobody cares because nobody knows actually who the people are who they're voting for. And so everyone just kind of writes down whatever. And she did it. And then because nobody actually cared, they had all just written down someone random and then accidentally had a tie, and they all had to come back and do it again. And but then we had talked about it so much, I started asking more and more questions about it, and was but wait, who what does this person do? And I come to find that they vote for this person who gets this small government role locally that then votes for the next layer, that votes for the next layer, that votes for the next layer, that makes its way all the way up to Xi Jinping. And it's is this system better? Because there are so many times outside of just voting for the lesser of 2 evils, you get to vote on a bunch of propositions. And they'll be should we fund $10 billion for the reduction of homeless in this particular county? And you're well, yeah. right? And then you look into it and it's like, oh, funded by Nestle because they want to like move these 7 homeless people out so that they can build another factory in this one location. And the burden to the taxpayer because of the damage they're going to do to the environment is 700 billion. And it's like, oh, wait, so then it's definitely a no. Oh, wait, and then you find out there's another layer on it, and eventually you're just like, I don't know what the correct answer is. Maybe someone who's way more informed should be making this decision.
Yeah. But like, when it comes to being enough informed to vote, would it not be that, okay, actually, it turns out only 3 people in the whole country actually know enough? Because there's so much to know and there's so many layers and there's so many factors.
But that's why I'm wondering, like, should we be voting for someone who's just our local representative and then that person votes only in their jurisdiction of what they fully understand and then each person votes up from there?
But even like that system is so far from perfect. The way that the British government works is that you vote a local member of parliament to go and vote for things on your behalf. And they go down and they'll debate the issue that they're going to vote on. And then 99 times out of 100, the member of parliament that you have voted for will just vote the way that they are told to by the party that they're a member of.
Of course.
And like the legislation is so detailed and technical and specific that most people don't know what they're voting for.
Yeah.
And these are people that are like paid to be there. Their job is to go and represent their constituents in Parliament, and a lot of the time they don't know what they're voting for. And so, and that is their full-time job. And it's not because they're not diligent. It's not because of their work ethic. It's because the nature of the system is such that they will not be able to know to any extent what legislation they're voting for, and they just rely on the party to say we're going to vote with the government or we're going to vote against the government on this. And just hope that the people in charge know what they're talking about. And then when you diffuse this across a population of 300 million, it's like this becomes even more broken.
Yeah. And then you end up spending $68 billion on curing the homeless problem, and then there's 700,000 new homeless people the next year.
Well, that speaks to the problem of the Western democratic system in general. In the UK, the Parliament has a 5-year term. In America, it's an 8-year term, but it could be 4 years, depending on how badly you do as president or how old you get. And what project can be done in 4 years?
Yeah, literally none. God, our system.
Okay, you can introduce a tax system for 4 years. Okay, cool. There are some small things you can do, but in terms of sort of large infrastructure, this is going to better society in general, you're not going to be able to get anything done in 4 or 5 years.
Right.
But with the stability of in perpetuity, China has built more high-speed rail in the last 10 years than the rest of the world combined.
Yep.
China has generated more clean electricity than the rest of the world combined. China has invested more in second countries than the rest of the world combined.
Right. But then take something like high-speed rail. I was very much on the why are we not building more high-speed rail? I don't know, what do you call it? Camp for a long time. And then I started taking the existing train around the US, and suddenly it was like our cities in between, like throughout most of the entire country, are so small that even if we had like an extensive rail network like China's, there'd be like 12 people taking most of the routes at
Yeah.
most of the times, and it would just like it would be empty always. And like I took,
I,
was that?
I think for the population geography of the United States, it would have to be an East Coast line and a West Coast line.
Even
Right?
then, like we have like one huge city on the East Coast and then a few like barely over a million cities, and that's pretty much it. And so like the East Coast has a high speed rail line right now, and it's not as fast as China's, but it's like pretty well established at this point. But on the West Coast, like there's LA and there's San Francisco and there's nothing in between. And so like if you were to build a high speed rail, people would get on in Los Angeles and they would get off in San Francisco and vice versa, but there'd be nothing in between. And that's so much infrastructure for like that one route. You may as well fly at that point. So is it even worth building?
I mean, that's a good question.
But
Like
like,
in the UK, they had big plans to because there's a high speed rail network from London to Paris, and then they wanted to extend that up to the north, um, because the rail infrastructure that we have at the moment is what was built during the Victorian era in the 1880s and 1890s. And commuter trains and express trains all use the same track. And so you can't have express trains because they just get stuck behind the commuter trains. So that's the problem they're trying to solve. They're not trying to get people to Manchester faster. They're trying to free up space on the line so that the commuters can have one line, and so that the people who are wanting to get from London to Manchester in 45 minutes or however long it's going to take them can do that journey faster.
yeah.
And then that's the problem they're trying to solve it in the UK. But like the land purchase is just so incredibly high.
Yeah. Which is not a thing in China.
Oh no, because nobody owns land here.
Although actually, you don't own the land, but at the same time, like there, even in the news recently, there was they pay everyone that they displace. They like give them a new home.
Oh,
And
sure. Like they're not unsympathetic about it.
but so I mean, like the cost is pretty similar. I don't understand why it's so. It seems like it not it is similar. It seems like it would be because they have to like acquire that land by their standard process, which usually means compensating whoever is currently on it fairly.
Yeah.
And so like why is it still so much cheaper to build the rail in China? It's bureaucracy. And China's supposed to have tons of
Yeah.
bureaucracy with their red stamps and everything. But
Huh.
it's like their bureaucracy doesn't cost a lot, and it doesn't seem to slow things down.
No, there's definitely a stronger political will, and the politicians here in China have more political capital. Um, and like in the UK, there was a government change, well, the end of last year, and it seemed as though the new government spent a lot of their political capital very quickly on. Like they pushed forward a couple of policies that turned out to be very, very unpopular, and now they're sort of stuck in a quagmire, and their domestic policies have sort of like faltered to a halt. And now there is a question in a lot of people's minds, from what I can gather, has anything really changed? Like we got this party that was all about change, and the change that they had promised hasn't actually appeared yet, and it's been a reasonable amount of time, and everything seems to be just as shitty now as it was back then. And so I wonder if it is just a case of China has a lot of domestic political capital and they can move things forward without much pushback.
I wonder, because don't each of the provinces also have like their own, they're allowed to do what they want to do within their own province? How much of it is like autonomous?
I'm actually not sure about that. But China does like to give the title of autonomous region.
Yeah, I was trying to understand what that even means, and I can't quite figure it out.
I do wonder, if you have countries that are called the Democratic Republic, and just from the name that they are neither democratic nor a republic.
Yeah.
So I do wonder about the autonomous regions here. How autonomous is that autonomy? Is it as autonomous as the Democratic Republic of Congo is democratic?
I mean, I know that all of the places labeled autonomous have ethnic minorities that are significantly different and speak their own language and are allowed to like continue having their own culture.
Right.
But it very much does also seem like they're very much required to follow all of the Beijing rules.
Yes, and they will be subject to some amount of unification.
Yeah, well, for sure. Gotta learn Mandarin and everything.
Yeah.
But then how does that differ from like a place like the Chaoshan region where like everyone has their own culture and language and like they maintain that but also have a ton of, you also have to speak Mandarin if you're going to work at a Luckin Coffee type thing. Seems the same, but that's not an autonomous region.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know how it ties in, but I don't really have much hands-on experience of that. Again, I think it's a symptom of living in a tier one city.
Wait, what's a symptom of it being in a tier one? Oh, you mean you not recognizing it?
Yeah, like I have no experience of that. Like,
okay, yeah.
I met someone recently, and I could tell by looking at him that he was not Han Chinese.
Yeah.
And I took a guess, and it turned out he was Hakka. And they are like the Hakka people are very, very, very much integrated into the Chinese way of life.
Yeah.
Like their skin is a little bit darker, but like they all speak Mandarin. Like they all go to Chinese schools, and they're not a distinct class of people. They're very much part of civil society.
So they're not autonomous.
Right. But I don't think there's like that much of a cultural identity for these people, even though they are an ethnic minority. You can go to a Hakka restaurant and get Hakka style food, and there's no stigma against these people. Like, oh no, don't talk to him. He's a Hakka person. He's not a Han Chinese. He's of a different. No, I don't think there's any of that kind of discrimination. But again, I don't really have any like first-hand experience, so it's just my assumption.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people talk about how, like during the time when they were talking about banning TikTok here, people were like, because TikTok here is like, it's poisoning our children's minds and they're getting addicted to it, and like the Chinese government already knows how bad it is for kids, and so they like limit what kids can see on the Chinese version. Is that true?
Yeah. So there's, I can't remember what it's called. I can't remember the English name, let alone the Chinese name. But it's a really popular mobile game, and it's like Wan Zhe Shima Shima. Hang on.
Is it PUBG?
No. I've got it. I go. King something. Wan Zhe. Oh, here it is. Wan Zhe Rongyao. Honorable King.
Oh, is that League of Legends?
Is it League of Legends?
Or it's either like one of those world popular games, or it's the Chinese version of one of those games that they made because like they wanted to have a Chinese version of it, and I can't remember which one it is.
PvP. I can say at least it is League of Legends-esque.
Yeah. Okay.
And everyone under the age of 25 plays this game.
Right.
And there are a lot of restrictions based on your Chinese ID on like how long you can play this game for.
Yeah.
And when you can play this game. And like the amount of money that you can spend on this game even. And if you're a school kid, like school kids have been stealing their grandma's Chinese ID in order to register for this game so they can play it more. But there's a lot of restrictions. But when you were talking about algorithms, I thought you were going to be talking about the Chinese equivalent of Amazon. So this app is called Taobao and is as close to Amazon as you're going to get in China.
But way bigger.
And I think like it is same but different.
Yeah.
In the fact that you can buy everything on it is the everything company. But I don't think it's as pervasive in China as Amazon is in the West.
I don't know. I mean, you can buy accounts to things on Taobao. It's pretty. I mean, there are more competitors now, so like, I guess it's losing some of its market share, but it's still pretty ubiquitous.
Ubiquity is not the same as pervasiveness. Like Amazon, like I think is trying to get into every facet of consumerism.
Oh, I see what you mean.
In the West.
Yeah, you're right.
Whereas I don't think Taobao has like such a united strategy. Anyway, that's beside the point. The algorithm on Taobao, I think, is world leading. And every time I open that goddamn app,
you have to buy something.
Presented with 150 things that I never knew I needed right now. And like it's so easy. I make a conscious decision not to go on there unless I've got a list of things that I want, and then I don't look at the suggestions. I only type in the thing that I need, and like I try not to, because if I go on that app, just browse on it. My cart has got like $600 worth of stuff that it's just the algorithm is so good at presenting me with things. But if I go on Amazon, I feel like
it's pretty bad.
That in the same pool. It's not the same.
It's amazing how bad, like, not even just the algorithm, but like the user interface and like the experience of going on. The fact that like I can go on Taobao and buy like a microphone for my camera, use it for 2 years, and then like the clip breaks, and I'll go and message the Taobao seller and be like, hey, the clip broke off, and they'll be like, send me 8 RMB and I'll send you another clip. Like, does not happen here. You can directly message the seller and everything, and then Taobao even has like built-in TikTok essentially, but just for buying stuff.
Yeah, so it's like the tele shopping channel from the mid 2000s. But it's on your phone, and actually I've got an example of what you were saying just now about the customer service. Because there's so many stores within Taobao of individual sellers, and there's so many of the same item. the only way that they can differentiate themselves is by having good customer service. And I've got Invisalign, Invisalign, what are they called? I can only think of the Chinese word for them. So I've got aligners, basically, to straighten my teeth. And cleaning them is a pain in the butt. So I bought an ultrasonic thing that sends a sound wave into the water, and it sort of like vibrates the aligner so that all the gunk that builds up on it over the course of the day is taken off, and it's got a UV light that kills germs, and
cool.
it cleans the aligners for you. It's pretty cool.
Sold, I'll buy one.
And it takes all the effort out of it. Anyway, so I bought one of these, and it worked great. And then after about a week, it had stopped working, and I messaged the seller and like, yeah, send it back. And then I used it for about 6 months, and then it broke again. I had the same problem. And they were like, oh, I'm really sorry. Do you want to set it back and get a new one, or do you want a full refund? And I was like, whoa, I'll take the refund. Thank you very much. But like, they were really, really good about it. Like, and I didn't have a warranty on it. I didn't buy any, like, because if you buy any electronic gadget from Taobao, you can opt to buy the warranty, coverage that Taobao. If you buy a computer, or if you buy an electronic toothbrush or anything, it'll give you like extended insurance against malfunction. I didn't buy that for this thing, and yet they were still able to give me a full refund. So like, I think, yeah, the algorithm on Taobao specifically is phenomenal, almost too good.
Well, then that leads to the question, do you think the US has a legitimate reason to ban TikTok?
Okay, so you preface the question with the word legitimate. And that's like, what would count as legitimate? Like,
like reasonable.
We were talking earlier about the it's not the paradox, like the veil of choice, that we have in the West of like, oh, you can choose one of two supermarkets because they contain 80% of the market, or you can choose one of three mobile phone networks because they control 90% of the market. In terms of social media, like, how many choices are there? Well, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Facebook, they're all owned by one company.
Yeah.
And what is the real competition for Facebook's hold on the social media market? There's only TikTok, right?
There's kind of also Twitter X, but it's not the same type of platform. But
if you can remind me, who was sitting at the inauguration in front of the cabinet for Trump's inauguration?
I think it was Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Mark Zuckerberg.
Yep. Okay, and so that would contain all of like social media and consumerism, internet consumerism, or at least 80% of it if you ban TikTok, right?
Yeah, but also the CEO of TikTok was there too.
That's interesting. But he's not American. Right?
Yeah, so. No, he's from Singapore. But the question is, though, that like they're still American companies and they're beholden to the laws of the United States. Whereas, but I mean, like at the same time, like, and even if it's a Chinese company, it's also still beholden to the laws of the United States.
Yep.
But it's a foreign government that kind of owns it. Not actually the government, but they very much like it's not hidden that they have like party members as part of the company once it gets beyond a certain size. And if you have an algorithm that serves content to billions of people and you have control over that algorithm, you essentially get to control what type of content is seen by billions of people and a significant portion of the United States. So
I don't think it comes down to a war of ideas. I think it comes down to money.
What specifically comes down to money? What do you mean by that?
Like the decision to ban TikTok.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. I don't think that's actually why they wanted to ban it, but
like that's the story that they want to tell.
That's the story they're willing to tell.
That's the narrative they want to portray, but it comes down to like advertising money.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I don't think most people could even recognize that why control over an algorithm is so powerful. Most of the people who are like making those decisions are not aware of that. But if they use that as the reason, and that's the reason that they tell the public, do you think that's different than what the reason that Facebook is banned in China?
Yeah, I do.
And do you think one of those is more correct than the other one?
Oh, that is a tough question to answer. No, I think they're equally futile.
Good answer.
But I do wonder, like, I am living in China.
Really?
And I do not use any Chinese social media. Apart from WeChat, if you count that as social media.
Right.
And one of the reasons for that is because there's not much that is like targeted towards me as a consumer.
Right.
Like nobody makes media on Instagram or Chinese Instagram, whatever, or TikTok in China that is targeted to a millennial immigrant. English-speaking millennial immigrant. Like, there's nothing on there for me.
Right.
And I think the same would be if Instagram and TikTok, like, we're not banned in China. I don't think there'd be much interest in using them because there's not much on there for people in China because there's so much of it is in English anyway.
There's tons of Chinese content on YouTube, though.
Is there? I wonder how much of that is because of Taiwan.
There's Taiwan and there's Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And there's like tons of Indian
be
content.
A migration of stuff from Douyin to Instagram, for example, if it was opened up in China. It'd just be another platform for these videos, and there would be little crossover anyway.
Yeah, probably. But then at the same time, like, Li Ziqi on YouTube has 17 million subscribers. Like, it would be really cool if there was a platform where people could commingle. There are a lot of like
the Xiaohongshu American,
yeah, like that
experiment. Yeah,
like when that happened, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I want to get in on that because I have content to post, and I posted my first China-U.S. differences video on Xiaohongshu, and it was like, your video is under review. And it was under review for about 4 days.
Oh, wow.
And then everyone lost interest and TikTok was unbanned and everything went back to normal. And, and it was like, I want there to be more connection between the two countries.